Thank you to Bandai Namco for the review code. Look at all them cool people who definitely work at Bandai Namco. They're so cool. Look at them. Wow. Incredible. Oh, hello. This is Caitlin with GoNintendo reviewing Pac-Man World Re-PAC for the Switch. Now, the original Pac-Man World I don't have any experience with. It launched on the original PlayStation in '99. I did own a PlayStation, but this one just missed me. I didn't really know who Pac-Man was until later on anyway. But Pac-Man World Re-PAC is a from the ground up remake. It's done in Unity, and it's the first time other than the Game Boy Advance D-Make that this original game has come to other platforms. So, I was pretty excited to try it when the code was sent to us. I kind of jumped on it because I know from a little bit of experience, just, in the ether of the internet, I have seen the gameplay for it, and it's a sort of collect-a-thon platformer, but it's in a pseudo 2D style. Like, the levels themselves are extremely linear, going from left to right, but your control is in full 3D, which is actually really cool. There's elements of a collect-a-thon, so you go around the levels collecting fruit from the original Pac-Man, like cherries, strawberries, etc. And those are sort of used as keys to open up doors in levels. So you'll go through a level and you'll see a melon door, but you can't open the melon door because the melon is a little further back on in the level. So you have to backtrack a little bit for that. It might sound a little tedious, but it's never too bad. You are making some backtracking, but it's never entire sections of levels over and over again. I feel like, for the most part, they actually vary up the gameplay enough without, making it too tedious for you to do things like backtracking. There's also various bonus stages and a slot machine bonus. Now, I did beat all the levels in the game, but there's not that many. There's around 25-ish levels or so, and they're themed around like pirates, ruins, space. There was a carnival, a factory, and a haunted house. Those are all the worlds you'll visit in the game. But how do I describe this? The way they divvy up the levels is very up and down. Some worlds get like 3 levels and a boss, but the ruins only get 2 levels and a boss, and then Funhouse gets 4 levels and a boss. So it's a little lopsided on how much content per world you're getting, but overall, it balances out at the end of the day. But I did find it a little weird that the ruins only get the 2 levels and then the boss, and that's it, and you're done with the ruins. And it's the second world of the game, it's not the first one. The first one was Pirate, and that one has 3 and a boss. So I'm wondering how that came about. I'm not sure, like, maybe if they cut one of the carnival levels and put it in ruins, it would have felt a little more even that way. But either way, I'm not too stressed about it. I'm not, hashtag bring back the ruins or anything like that. But at the end of the day, the important part is all the levels are pretty fun. There's a couple that I'm not a fan of. There was one level in the factory world that sort of drove me up a wall. It's a very long section of swimming through tunnels, and I don't mind the swimming controls themselves, but the tunnels are filled with these shark enemies that are invincible unless you have a specific power-up. So, it's all about pacing yourself through this, trying to navigate around them, and then when you find the power-up, going back and defeating the shark enemies. That part was a bit tedious, I'm not gonna lie. But for the most part, the levels are good, and I like that. And one of the bosses was even a Galaxian boss. Like, the whole thing is a shoot 'em up boss, and I think that's an important part about this game, is every boss plays differently. They all have, a health meter, and you're, attacking them and whatnot, but every boss is something new, and I appreciate that. The first boss of the game is sort of a pirate ship with eyes, which I found very funny. It gave me very Rare vibes. But the whole vibe with that boss is you hit switches to pull up these flags that bounce back its cannonballs, and that's how you deal damage to it. Whereas, you know, the Ruins boss was you running on these conveyor belts with your rev roll move, which is like almost like a Sonic-like spin dash. You can charge it up and then burst forward with speed. That was a really cool idea. All the bosses are totally different, and that's actually like one of the high points of the game, is you're always getting something new to play, more or less, right? Like the core gameplay doesn't change. You have one moveset and it's that's the moveset the whole game. But the fact they're able to mix it up so frequently is actually really interesting. I will say though, the bonus stages I was a bit confused by. I wasn't sure if I messed something up or what. I think all the bonus stages are tied to their world. So the Carnival bonus stage, no matter what, is always the Carnival bonus stage. It's the same layout every time. And I'm not sure if that's an intentional thing or if like there maybe a goof or something. I'm not sure. I don't mind it because it was like a cool little extra stage, right? For, you know, lives and points. But it was really weird. I'm used to bonus stages having like a couple of different ones, sure, but having them be tied to worlds kind of threw me off because I was like, oh, okay, I guess this is just the one for this world then. And then there's the slot bonuses, and I have to say the slot bonus is probably the most infuriating thing on the planet. Unless the game gave it to me by, you know, happenstance, I could never get a jackpot. I could get 2 sometimes. If I tried really hard, I could get 2, but I could never get a jackpot unless the game, there's like a random chance it'll just give you like, oh, for this round of slots, it's all the same thing, so you're just gonna get a jackpot every time you hit the button. And I'm like, geez, I wish it was like that every time. Slot bonuses were a bit frustrating. I mean, it's all for extra lives and points, which wouldn't normally be a big deal, right? But the problem I have with it is the 100% requirements for this game. So just as a heads up, I beat the entire game and I was having a great time with it. And then after I beat the final boss, I'm at 92%. And at 92%, I'm like, oh man, what am I missing? All the levels are beaten 100%. Like it gives me a gold crown on every level. What's the deal? So I talked to some of the in-game NPCs, and one of them mentions getting a high enough in-game score for a special key. And I'm like, oh man, like, okay, you know what? Like I'm around like 740,000 points by the end of the game by now. Maybe I can just, bump it up just a little bit. Maybe 750 is like the point total, right? So I do that. I go revisit some levels and I get better scores and whatnot. And I talk to him again and he's like, nope, not enough. Like you need to get your score up. And I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. Eventually I'm going through all the levels. I'm trying to increase my score just a smidge more. And after I get to like 760,000, I'm just at a loss. I have no idea what to do. I look it up. How do you get the special key in Pac-Man World Re-PAC? Well, it turns out that the 100% requirements for this game are completely bonkers. Okay, so you have some things that are essentially, beat all the levels in the game, obviously. Collect all the fruit, obviously, things of that nature. All very obvious things, right? Rescue all the NPCs. I had no problem doing any of that. That was almost just naturally as I was playing the game. So, that wasn't really an issue. But then it says, okay, you do need 750 points. Okay, so I got the points thing taken care of. So what am I missing? Turns out you need to defeat every enemy in the game, every boss in the game. You need to obtain every 1600 point bonus from like ghosts. You need to do that in all the bonus levels, and you need to hit a jackpot at least once for every stage. I do not have that kind of time. For anyone who has the time to do it, feel free, go ahead. It's not that bad. The only reason it's bad for me is because I have to make the review. Like I have a time I need to, adhere to. But if you're just like casually, chipping away at it, I could see someone doing this. But wow, that seems really over the top for a special key. And, a brief little spoiler. If you want to skip ahead, feel free. But the key, all that it does is unlock every door in the game, in the levels. So more or less it's just a speedrunning tool, and it's not really beneficial, I guess. Like, if you're a speedrunner, great, and if you want to speedrun it, great, but I don't think the game keeps track of your fastest times or anything like that, or at least I don't remember it doing that. And if it did, I apologize. But I never really I was like, okay, well, I don't really want the key, I guess. I'll just stick to 92%. I beat the game, so I saw the credits. That's it. And I guess if we're talking about things that let me down a little bit, the music, while great music, I really hope you like the Pac-Man, like, do over and over again, because you are gonna hear that almost in every song in the game. If I recall, the original composer is Tommy Tallarico, who I think does pretty good work. Like, he did Earthworm Jim and stuff like that, and I think the music in those is very fun. But he went ham on, like, okay, there are like 3 jingles in Pac-Man. Those need to be in this game for everything. And, good on him. He did a great job because, like, he incorporates them into every single song in some way. And that's real talent. That's real talent right there. But the original compositions themselves are, really good. And I think that's the important part. It is just the original ones, though. There's no like remix or any like arranged soundtrack, like Spyro or Klonoa did. So it's a bit of a bummer, but you're still getting a great soundtrack regardless, and it's very high quality because, like I said, it was on the original PlayStation, which could play CD quality audio. So I think other than using the sort of masters of the original songs, they're exactly the same, which is nice. I guess I never really talked about the plot because it's sort of throwaway. The plot isn't super like in your face. It's not very important. There's a couple small cutscenes for bosses, and that's about it. And then the main cutscene at the start of the game. So the evil robotic Talkman is hosting a party and intends to kidnap Pac-Man for some reason. I don't think he ever explains why. But his lackeys, the ghosts, end up capturing his family instead, right? And, I'm sitting there watching it and I'm like, okay, it's a basic story, right? And then I remembered, wait a minute, from my brief experience with this game, like via the internet, the original cutscene was a lot better. Because in the original cutscene, Pac-Man has a hilarious scream, and they don't do that scream in the new one. And that's really upsetting. In fact, voiceover in this game is entirely removed. Everyone talks in like Banjo-Kazooie, blah, 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 and it's very fun. Yeah, obviously, you're not playing this game for narrative. This isn't Fire Emblem. This isn't Final Fantasy. It's not Persona. You're playing this because it's just a fun, enjoyable platformer. And I think if I played this as a kid, this would have been one of my favorite games of all time. Like, absolutely. I had a joy blasting through this game. I beat it in about, my game file says I've played for 20 hours. I don't believe that for a second. I maybe spent 10 hours on this game. I think the game keeps the timer going when you put the Switch into sleep mode, so just be aware of that your in-game time is going to look a lot higher if you don't close the game. So, you can put a decent amount of time into it, 10, 15 hours for 100%. Yeah, that you could do a lot worse. I think there are better games, I think there are worse games, but I think this is like a really solid good. This is a good game, and I recommend it. I recommend going out, trying it out, see what you think. If, for example, if Klonoa didn't do it for you, because I actually played the Klonoa remake earlier this year, only the first one, didn't play the second one much. Overall, I found Pac-Man to be more enjoyable, a little meatier. There's a lot more levels to it. Not that Klonoa was bad by any means. I mean, it's a great platformer in general, but it's Pac-Man, and it's good. And I highly recommend it. Go play it.